Let your curiosity rise.
Matrix webcast,
Where the human spirit flies. Matrix webcast. Where the human spirit flies.
Welcome to the Medbix webcast. This is Ramana Annamaraju. I'm the host. Let me, I have a co-host, right? Let me bring the co-host, Dr. Susan Davis. She is a, beautiful, bold, and brainy. I have a new taglines every time she comes. Let me bring her to the Susan. Welcome to the Medbix, Susan.
Good evening, Ramana. I think you've changed my tagline a little bit there.
Yeah, tagline every time I change it. Let me ask you, I tell you, this is one of the hardest working presentation I'm going to do today. And we have a great guest today. Both are, I think you need to raise a little bit. We are on the two different levels. Maybe you need to raise a little bit yeah. Okay. Maybe I need to.
Yeah.
So, one of the things is, the thing is, the radiologist or anybody, one thing they do is see the patterns recognition is important. Okay, patterns in not just in the patterns in radiology. You can see patterns in frequencies, pattern in the structures, pattern in the functional aspects. You can see the patterns everywhere in the entire spectrum of the process. You can also see in the real life. I show you one trick today. I'm going to show you. That is what I'm going to show you. He sent me yesterday, if you remember, he sent me a poem, right?
Oh, I
Silence.
Yeah, I did.
Silence, right? He did a poem. Poems and car crash look same to me for me. But so I'm not a good poet, right? So you send among all those days, he never sent me a poem. Yesterday, he sent me a poem. That's very interesting. You're the founder of Rescue RN. That's a great qualification, saving lives, right? Now, there is a Santini, one of the Nobel laureates last century. Very powerful. He won the Nobel Prize for his literature, for his poetry. His name is Rabindranath Tagore from India. He's from Calcutta, India. Okay, he won the Nobel Prize. He's a fan of science. He met the quantum physics fathers like Heisenberg, and he was very good. So, see that he writes poetry. One of the poems he wrote is Silent Steps. Okay, and then Dr. Mukherji, that our upcoming guest, is actually the advisor to the Shantiniketan that is founded by Rabindranath Tagore, the poet. So we have something, see, silence. I'm going to present a topic on the power of silence, power of simple things. So it is actually, you can see pattern not only in the physics, but you can see in the real life. That is the power of the patterns, right? So let me tell you. This is let me introduce you. Take it out. This one, Navya. Yeah. Let me.
I see where you're going with this. I see where this was pretty clever. You just gave us a little sneak peek into your presentation this evening and how the patterns.
And Dr. Mukherji is also a radiologist. He reads images, right? Reading images.
I see that from the anatomy to the physiology, maybe to the metabolic, the molecular level, and even the frequencies of those. So I see where you're going with this.
Okay, yeah. So that is a goal. So not only that, not I'm going with it. The most important is recognizing those patterns in life. Is we need to recognize those patterns. That is our life. Life is actually one of the directives is recognizing patterns, because that is one way we can avoid dangers. Okay, so once that is a key. Let me introduce you our upcoming guest, Dr. Suresh Mukherji. He is a very frequent guest on the MedBricks. He was wonderful to have one of my favorite guests. He is a professor in radiation and radiation oncology. He is a dual professor. He wrote 13 textbooks, 400 publications worldwide he speaks, and very humble, that is a very, highly characteristic, and also director of the Shantiniketan, advisor to the Shantiniketan in Calcutta, India. He came from that background. So let me bring Dr. Suresh Mukherji to the table. Dr. Mukherji, welcome. Let me
Hey.
start with the Medbix webcast. You've been a fan of Medbix for a long time. Thank you so much. You always support our vision and our, that you are a great supporter. You gave me a lot of inspiration. So tell us a little bit about what you think of what your background is a little bit, and where you are joining from. You're joining from Indiana, right? Indianapolis.
Yeah, hey, it's great to have me here, Ramani. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you
Thumbs,
perfectly well.
thumbs up, Susan. Yeah. Hey, it's great. Thanks for having me back here. I wanted to first of all compliment you on everything you've done with MedBricks. I think I was one of your first hosts, if I recall, and I think
Yes.
probably on the first webcast it was just you and I talking to each other.
Yeah.
And now you've added Susan, which is fantastic. You've added other people supporting you. Everything is much more streamlined. I think you mentioned you have 12,000 impressions every night on these MedBricks webcasts.
Yeah.
And I think it's just fantastic what you've done. So for me, I just so much appreciate people with a passion and energy. And I'm always happy to support individuals that just believe in what they do, because if you don't believe in what you do, nobody else will. And
Yeah.
in order to have this success, you have to believe that you can do it, and clearly you're doing it. And so for me, it's a real pleasure and an honor and a privilege to really just play a small role in this. So thank you very much for having me again.
Thank you, sir. Let me, before I bring Susan, let me ask you, I am in the middle of Silicon Valley. Everybody, even including the Uber drivers, DoorDash drivers, Uber Eats, everybody talks about AI, artificial intelligence in this town. So actually those are all fringe benefits, but the real benefit is our biggest threat is a cancer. One of the, people are getting older. Cancer is the biggest threat. So detecting and the curing and working with kind of cancers that you work with. So how do we, is it AI is helping you? That let me ask you that how that AI is fitting in your response to the cancers and all those things. Can you give us some rundown on your AI role in cancers?
Yeah. So I think right now, anytime that you have a developing field like this, you're going to have a lot of experts come in. And really what I want to tell you is I'm not necessarily an expert, but we have opinions. I think we all know that 2 + 2 = 4. But as we're developing new paradigms and new initiatives, and we're sort of in the journey, a lot of what people mention and talk about are oftentimes aspirational. One thing about radiology is that we've been using artificial intelligence in our practice probably for about 5 or 6 years. And if you look at the Gartner curve, and I'm sure you're familiar with the peak height of peak expectations, and then you have a trough of disillusionment, and then you have a plateau of productivity. I think one thing about artificial intelligence in radiology, we've sort of gone through the ups and the downs. And right now, we're really trying to figure out how to use it clinically. So we use approximately 19 different artificial intelligence algorithms in our practice every day. And some of those algorithms are specifically directed with quote unquote cancer. I was just on a panel on Monday with purchasers and payers organizations, and I was giving a presentation there. And I always look at cancer as the elephant, and anyone that talks about cancer, it's like you made the analogy of India, which I'm proud to be Indian, but it's the old parable of the blind man kind of grabbing on the elephant, and then all of a sudden feeling that the elephant is, maybe it's a rope because you grab the tail, maybe it's like a tree trunk because you grab the leg, maybe it's like a snake because you grab the trunk. Cancer is sort of the same way. So when you actually look at artificial intelligence in cancer, I think you have to really have a lot of clarity as to what type of cancer that you're talking about and what the role of AI is going to be. So there are some tangible areas right now where we are using artificial intelligence to help us detect cancer. So when we look at artificial intelligence and we look at cancer, so if we just talk about cancer, the first thing that we really want to discuss is maybe prediction of cancer. Then we want to talk about screening for cancer, then detection of cancer, then the treatment of cancer, and then we can determine how the prediction, whether your treatment will work. And you can take that type of approach and map it to different types of cancer. So you can look at that same thing with breast cancer, with lung cancer, with brain cancer, et cetera. And artificial intelligence touches each aspect of that journey in a person that has cancer. So when we talk about artificial intelligence in radiology, there are different touch points in radiology that artificial intelligence has. Part of it has to do with, first of all, scheduling. Artificial intelligence is now integrated in every piece of new equipment that you buy. But I think what garners the most attention is what we refer to as the detection or the pixel-based, or another terminology is assistive AI, in which we use the artificial intelligence algorithm to help us detect abnormalities, and oftentimes that abnormalities are cancer. So when it comes to detecting cancer now, there are numerous algorithms out there that allow us to better detect cancers in breast cancer, in various types of brain cancer, in lung cancer, and also in prostate cancer as well too. So those things right now are integrated. If you look at the American College of Radiology website, there are over 421 FDA-approved software as medical device products that are now approved in the United States. So there's no shortage of products that are out there. I think where we are right now, if you look at the Gartner curve that had the height, the peak of expectations, and you have the trough of disillusionment, right now we're sort of in the area where we're trying to figure out what actually works. So if you read the lay press and you look at the literature, you're going to see hundreds, if not thousands, of applications of AI in cancer. A lot of these are gleaned from initial papers that are in the medical literature. But with Ramana, you being in Silicon Valley, we know that eventually, in order to have real sustainability and provide value to our society, we have to create a sustainable product that's scalable and that can be used across all areas of our society in the United States and in other areas, and also devoid of any type of bias, whether it's gender bias, whether it's socioeconomic issues, whether it's race, whether it's ethnicity. So that's where we are right now in radiology when it comes to cancer, is that we know we have lots of tools. We're trying to figure out which ones actually work. And now we have to figure out which ones are scalable and to make sure they can provide the biggest value to our population as a whole.
Yeah,
So
well, I just was thinking, I believe I read something that you said in the last few weeks, perhaps on your social media, with somewhere along the lines of 75% of the AI in healthcare, is that being directed towards or being used in radiology? It's a pretty big number.
There was a paper that came out, I think it was in 2024. And that number has probably at least increased by 30%. And I assume the proportions are the same, but there were approximately 900 to 1,000 algorithms that were FDA approved, and about 75% were somehow related to radiology. So the ACR specifically looked at softwares that were being used in radiology. But there's a whole nother ecosystem. And some of those products are actually embedded in MRI machines, in CT machines as we speak. And those aren't even counted by the ACR because those aren't even softwares. So probably now, since that paper was published in 2024, which means they got the data in 2023, I would say that number has probably jumped up by about 30%. And I assume the proportions are probably about the same.
So that being said, what are you thinking, and where do you think, do you have job security my friend? I'm like, what's happening with radiologists? And are there radiologists coming into the practice with that much software and AI?
Yeah, that's a
That
good
much?
question.
What do you think?
Oh, that's such a great question. So, Susan, they have predicted. So, I hate to say this. I was born in the last century. I trained in the last century, and I'm a product of the 60s and the 70s. So, I'm ancient. When I went into radiology, I decided to go into radiology in 1985. And since 1985, when I decided to go into radiology, they've predicted the death of our field 7 times.
Oh,
So back in the early in the 1980s, there was, well, there's not enough technology. It'll never work. Well, that's obviously not correct, because we had CTs, we had MRs, we had PAC systems, we have PETs, we have ultrasound. Then they said, well, somebody else is going to be reading your studies. Well, that never really came to fruition, because the purchasers, the payers, our regulatory organizations made sure that a radiology had to interpret studies in order someone get paid. And there were various payment reforms that somehow tried to pull the legs out for under us. Granted, we don't make as much per unit as we used to years ago, but we're still, pretty well compensated. And then fast forward, artificial intelligence came out, and the tailwind behind this was Ramana mentioned the Nobel Prize winner. Thank you for mentioning 2 Nobel Prize winners, Ramana, that were actually Bengali from Calcutta. You mentioned Tagore, but you also Bose won for the Bose-Higgins particle. So there are 2 Nobel Prize winners that came from Calcutta. But where I'm going with this is that the Nobel Prize winner, Jeff Hinton, who won the Nobel Prize for Physics in 2024, in 2016 said that we don't need to train any more radiologists. The videos on YouTube, and every individual that gives a talk on artificial intelligence always shows this famous video. But basically, he used the old coyote looking over the cliff and said, well, it's the radiologist. You don't know the cliff is there, but you're going to fall into it. Well, that was in 2016. I think he's backtracked a little bit. He did win a Nobel Prize in 2024, but the only thing that I can tell you is that there is a tremendous shortage of radiologists. There's a tremendous shortage of physicians. The AMA is predicting a 13 to 40,000 physician shortage in 2035. Part of my journey is that I'm in a way recruiter. I love being a professor of radiology. I absolutely love what I do. If I had to do it all over again, I would do it again. And I love recruiting people. And part of it was when I worked for one of the companies a few years ago. I love academics, but I also like to get into corporate medicine and so on and so forth. We were recruiting people at $550,000 right out of their residency. So if you look at the shortage of radiologists or the obsolescence of our field, that's just not going to happen. And so this prediction of our death and our extinguishment is much overstated. And the only thing that I can say is we get recruitment letters every day, regardless of where you are, and the starting salaries are anywhere between $500,000 and $700,000. So I don't see this ending anytime soon.
well, 7 lives down, 9 lives to go, or 2 more to go if we're doing the 9 live version. So no problem. All right, I get you.
Also, I want to say, I don't think you should go into our field because of the money. I mean, you have to love what you do. But the only reason why I mention that is this myth out there that was propagated in part by our own specialty, saying that we may not be around very much longer. But if you look at the economics, if you look at the best history of future success is past performance. And based on everything that I've seen over the last 30 years, I think our field is as strong as it's ever been. And I just want all of us to just enjoy the great field that we're in our profession.
Dr. Mukherji, let's go back to the clinical side a little bit. So in what way, tell me a use case or some kind of a thing, how AI is helping you to detect cancer in any cancer you pick it up, where you can see demonstratably that AI is helping you in the sense.
Yeah, sure. I think so. We can just go ahead and start with probably the easiest one is lung cancer because that's getting probably some of the most attention. So when you are looking for pulmonary nodules, there are, let's just say if you're a smoker, there is a lung cancer detection program that is in the United States for many years, and also now is being mapped out to other parts of the world. Like I said, I was just in Australia, and now they're starting their own lung cancer program there. These are sometimes painful to look at. I mean, we are so busy. When I was a resident or fellow, we would look at maybe 30 images per study. Now we're looking at thousands of images, literally thousands. And so what AI does allow us to do is at some point, you reach the law of diminishing returns where you physically can only look at so many images. So if you are looking at lung cancer screening studies in which there's a relatively low prevalence of disease, the artificial intelligence algorithm allows us to detect nodules that potentially could be cancer. Now, fast forward, that is what I refer to as assistive AI, because it'll assist us to detect the potential cancers. It detects an abnormality. But the next phase is an augmentative component of artificial intelligence. So one of the things that has been funded by the government, which is a rare occurrence when it comes to AI, but let's just say you find a nodule in someone. All of us have nodules. How do we know the nodule that we're looking at is actually benign or malignant? So there are actually AI algorithms now that allow us to perform risk stratification. So it looks at the internal components of those nodules and it says, well, this one's probably benign, so it doesn't need to be biopsied. But this one probably is malignant, and this does need to be biopsied. So fast forward, if that is a risk assessment based purely on what we refer to as the radiomics of radiology. And what I mean by radiomics is that you can see a mass and you can look at it on CT and it tells you the size, it tells you the internal composition, it looks at the margins. And what AI does is that when I look at a study, I'm qualitatively looking at the abnormality. But because radiology is all digital data and artificial intelligence is using quantitative software, it can take the data that actually generated the images, take one step back and analyze the raw data. So when you look at quantitation and quantitative risk assessment, that's one of the really interesting things about AI in helping us to predict benign versus malignant. And then if you take it to the next step, the future of AI is going to say, okay, right now in radiology, we just see the nodule, but let's factor in your age. Let's factor in your sex. Let's factor in your smoking history. Let's factor in other areas that could actually make us predict better whether it's benign or malignant. So that's a couple of areas where AI is currently being utilized now in the real world to really change how we do things.
Could that analysis potentially save people from biopsies? I'm wondering, I mean, could it potentially, I mean, what about, I mean, I'm thinking about how difficult it is to get to diagnoses in the brain. You know, you've got a single mass and maybe a secondary, possibly buried mass in there somewhere in your head. And could this potentially save, you know, a borehole?
Absolutely, 100%. And that's why I kind of alluded to it, is that
Very good.
in general, the purchasers and the payers and CMS have not been very open or supportive about paying for different AI algorithms that we use in our clinical practice. But there have been a few carve-outs. And those carve-outs are exactly this type of software, because this type of software does exactly what you said, Susan. It can prevent unnecessary biopsies. So you prevent the unnecessary biopsies, you prevent the unnecessary expense of doing a histologic sampling, avoid all of those complications and all the cost, the potential costs associated with that. So there's this type of approach results in overall reduction in cost, overall reduction in patient morbidity, and unnecessary procedures. And that's why this type of approach has been funded by CMS.
Dr. Mukherjee, I used to run an imaging center, right, in a diagnostic center, where we used to do a lot of mammograms. The problem was our radiologists used to tell us, you know, they can determine this is really there is anything going on there. Sometimes very confusing, sometimes they are not sure. So is there any AI is going to improve the mammograms detection a little bit better than before? You think it is really valuable to them in the mammogram detection, particularly because of screening test, right? I'm talking about screening part of it. So can you tell us a little bit about that, Dan, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I mean, that's really the hot topic right now, not only in the United States, but globally. Um, in order for one point that I want to make is that if you have the inkling to go out and start looking at softwares in any type of initial detection of an abnormality with AI, in order to get the FDA to approve it, it has to ensure that the ability that the software is equivalent to a human. So that means that it's quote unquote safe, and the FDA will say, okay, it's good. That doesn't necessarily mean that the diagnostic accuracy that's reported to the FDA is going to be the same in your own environment for various reasons. But the potential of AI in mammography is quite very, very promising. So number one, there may be certain types of AI algorithms for detecting breast cancer that may be better than a human.
Mm.
Now, there is one big national company right now, if you really want to get controversial, that you, as a woman, you can get your mammogram done at this place, and it will be covered because most screening mammograms are covered by your carriers, whether it's a private insurance or CMS. But if you want to talk about potential disruptive issues when it comes to social determinants of health and increasing healthcare disparities, this one company says, okay, you can now have an additional add-on payment that you'll have to pay out of pocket to have that same mammogram interpreted by artificial intelligence. Now,
Whoa.
right. So what the diagnostic accuracy of that artificial intelligence is going to be, it's not quite clear to me. Maybe it's better, but maybe it's worse. From what I understand, a
Wow.
lot of women are paying out of pocket. And
That is tragedy,
well, it raises a bunch of questions. I think if you have the resources, maybe it's beneficial, maybe it's not. And you have to ask yourself, well, what if the algorithm what the AI says is different than what the radiology says? So there's a lot of issues, and that's separate from healthcare disparities. Why are we now, quote unquote, providing better care or better detection to only those that can afford it? The other thing that's actually happening right now in the United Kingdom and also in Europe is this type of artificial intelligence algorithm is now being used and integrated into their health systems. So for instance, if you have an AI, let me back up for a second. The United Kingdom requires each mammogram to be interpreted by 2 radiologists.
Mm.
If you think the healthcare system, there's a shortage of physicians here, just take a look at the NHS. They're incredibly short.
Wow.
So what they are doing now is that they're taking the AI algorithms, and one is being read by a radiologist, but the other is now being tested through an AI algorithm.
In which order? In which order?
I think right now it's in a trial situation right now, but the hope is that if you can have an AI algorithm that has a very, very high negative predictive value, meaning that the mammogram goes into the algorithm and it says it's negative, and the ability for that algorithm to say if it's negative, it truly is negative, that's the negative predictive value. Then if the algorithm says it's negative and the radiologist says it's negative and there's a low prevalence of disease, well, all of a sudden you eliminate the need for an additional mammographer to interpret that study. And if you already have a shortage of physicians and radiologists as they do in the UK, that's really good.
Wow.
And then when I just got back from Australia too, I think now in Europe, from what I hear, certain countries, again, with the low prevalence of disease, are just running their mammograms through the AI algorithm. And if it's negative, it's negative. But somehow if it picks up, if it's positive, then those are the ones that need to be interpreted by a radiologist. So the ultimate promise is that the scenarios that I gave you are in first world countries, the United States and Europe and in Canada. If we look at this globally, and then we look at these areas that are low resource countries that clearly not only don't have enough radiologists, but don't have enough subspecialty trained radiologists, then these type of algorithms allow us to have a new phenomena that's called upskilling. And what the upskilling does is, as Susan, you mentioned before, I'm a neuroradiologist, I'm a head and neck radiologist. So I know something maybe about like 6 inches, right? That's about it. I know nothing about anything else. But if you really have general radiologists that, God bless them, they have to do everything. And they have some type of software in which allows them to subspecialize in an area that has an underserved area with a large population, with all lives being equal, regardless of where you live or what part of the country you're from, regardless of your parents and your socioeconomic status, we're all the same. Then I think this type of software can really be a revolutionary if it's validated and implemented properly.
Let us dive into that situation, Dr. Mukherjee. So if you're saying that, in those countries, particularly India and Africa and all those countries, there's not enough CT scans and MRIs there. So we have a lot of ultrasound and X-ray, two eyes of the doctor inside. You can pierce through the body. You think AI can help detect more diseases like a lung cancer through just looking at the digital X-ray without a CT scan, or
Oh.
some, is it possible it can do that in the future?
Well, I would say yes and yes in two different scenarios. So it's an excellent question. I think we are sort of in the early stages of AI, but some of the chest X-ray softwares are really sophisticated. So I'll be political here and I'll express my opinion about the FDA in the United States. I think they do a great
FDA
job.
commissioners are watching, sir. Dr.
Yeah, I
Martin,
think they do a fabulous job. But I will explain one thing, and I will get back to answer your question, hopefully in the proper context. And that is, right now in the United States, each software for a chest X-ray needs to be approved through a very rigorous safety process and statistically evaluated for one abnormality. So for instance, right now we're really focusing on pulmonary nodules on a chest X-ray. But if I'm a radiologist and I look at a chest X-ray, well, guess what? There's more than the lungs on a chest X-ray. And there can be more abnormalities. So if I'm looking at a chest X-ray, I may detect a pulmonary nodule, or I may say there's no pulmonary nodule, but maybe there's an abnormality involving the rib. Maybe there's an abnormality involving the clavicle. Maybe there's an abnormality involving the heart. Maybe there's actually a pneumonia that doesn't look like a nodule, but it looks like it's not going to be detected by the algorithm. So where I'm going with this is that in the United States, each software only allows an individual detection of a single abnormality. We call that a point solution. Now, in other parts of the world, there are a growing number of AI software companies that can detect over 100 different abnormalities when you look at a chest X-ray. So, for instance, it can detect the ribs, it can detect the lungs, it can detect pneumonias, it can detect abnormalities involving your mediastinum, it can detect abnormalities at the base of your neck. But that type of approach right now is not allowed in the United States. So where I'm going with this, Ramana, is that if you have the proper algorithm from an initial screening tool that has a high negative predictive value, sometimes we as radiologists are not sure, and we have to order a CT scan for further evaluation or clarification. So if you look at low resource countries, like you mentioned, they don't have enough CTs or MRI scans, et cetera. If we can provide those radiologists a upskilling and use an algorithm that has a very high diagnostic accuracy and can help them exclude disease, well, that may allow them to avoid unnecessary imaging on CTs and other modalities if it's not really indicated. So that's where I think AI can be used to sort of address the constraints in lower resource countries. So I hope I answered your question.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very good.
Do I have an opportunity for another question before you go into your
Yeah,
presentation?
please go ahead. Please go
Okay,
ahead.
so I wonder if we might just kind of take a turn away from AI for a moment and get down to the reality of the people in radiology and imaging areas. And we talked about the volume that you guys, radiologists and your team members are having to consume, where AI was very helpful. But with the volume that's gone up, meaning the amount of people getting scanned, CT, MR, echo, sonography, non-invasive cardiology, all those things, the usage of contrast media has also gone up. So I'm going to go back into the imaging suites themselves. And I want to talk about who's there in the scope of practice of those who are there. You might have a radiologist there. The radiologist might be remote, more likely. And now we're giving increased amounts, not per patient, but per volume of humans, contrast media. In 2024, the American College of Radiology came out and said, guess what? We're giving a lot more contrast media, and the possibility and potential for reactions is going up. Again, in 2025, they said the same thing. So I've personally been spending a lot of time in those areas, and their recommendation is for hands-on training in those environments with their emergency equipment and their reaction kits and their teams, because of the potential of, let's say anaphylaxis to arrest in 5 minutes or less. Is that something that you agree with? Is that something you've been seeing or something you've been hearing about? And what do you think about hands-on team practice with those who are there?
That's what a company does. What chosen company.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think, Ramana can address that too. I think from our standpoint, it's an incredibly important topic. I think we as radiologists, part of the value that we add is to ensure that we provide the highest quality and safety at our imaging sites. So the first thing that I'll say about contrast is that, again, I've been doing this now, I hate to say it, for 40 years. Contrast, you're supposed to say I don't look that old, Ramana, but you didn't say that.
Not possible.
Thank you so much. It's the bad lighting here. I remember years ago that there were old contrast media that probably had about a 20 or 30% of some type of side effects, some type of adverse reactions. And then they came out with a new contrast media that substantially reduced it. And I remember as a resident, because that new contrast media was so expensive, we would have to consent the patient because our hospital required it because the cost was so high. Over time, the hospitals, the institutions, the payers, the government have realized we don't need to be throttled that much. My point is as we've moved on, the likelihood of adverse reactions has substantially decreased, both for CT and MR. It's not zero, but it has substantially decreased. And what we do find is that we will occasionally identify areas in which there can be adverse effects and long-term issues with contrast media. And once those are identified, then the pharmaceutical companies, the contrast makers, are very savvy about creating new type of compounds. So I'll give you three specific issues. One was the higher incidence of anaphylaxis and side effects with CT contrast agents. Slowly but surely, that has diminished over time. Back about 15 years ago, there was something that patients were getting a nephrotoxicity. They were getting scleroderma type reactions in their skin from MR contrast. And we found out what the issue was, and the pharmaceutical agents came out with new compounds that could protect that. A few years ago, I think gadolinium deposition in the brain. Again, the contrast agent medias came out with that. And so we have been proactive about that. And all of us that actually handle contrast agents on site, we all have to be, at the very least, BLS certified, if not ACLS certified. And we always have the adjacent to the scanners.
The point is Susan is making is support the staff, supporting the rescue efforts and during this contrast problem, and that's what a company provide services. Yes, always 100% safety is important, right? That's but anyway, let me talk about something interesting. You want to say something quickly while I'm bringing this stuff? Where is my thing? Can you bring it up? Okay. I think this is not the one. Where is my? Oh, I didn't bring it. Oh, 1 second. I'm going to bring it. Just a minute. Talk something. You can keep saying something.
Well,
Why
okay,
is
so
it-
we're gonna go back to our imaging area while he's getting his presentation ready. I find it very
Yeah.
interesting. What about right now we've got again remote radiologists. Sometimes we're having remote techs. I'm wondering who's there with your mom. Let's just say there is a contrast media reaction. Many of them are off site and have to call 911. That's a
Right.
lot of time to have to manage the ship, remotely until help arrives. It's fascinating to me. I've been enjoying working with teams, making them reaction ready, helping them be reaction ready, really reinforcing the basics with the team members they have, the equipment they have, the drugs they do or do not have in a reaction kit, and so on and so forth. But I can't believe, they can't even give an EpiPen, most of them. It's a bit frustrating at times.
Yeah, I think part of what you're talking about, this tailwind, Susan, that pushed this was actually COVID. Because prior to COVID, we always had to have an on-site radiologist anytime that we gave contrast. But because during COVID times, because of safety issues and distance issues, the CMS allowed us to have remote evaluation of contrast. So when we do give contrast remotely, we have to be in visual contact with the technologist. And so if there is a reaction, some sites, again, it's state dependent. Part of it is a federal mandate, but if there is, and you have an independent center, you can call 911. But the technologists have the ability to give Benadryl, they have the ability to give the EpiPen, and they are directed by the physician. So right now, again, a lot of it was based on COVID. We have the ability to do that. And I'm sure they looked at the data, and this aligns with what I was saying with earlier, is that the safety profile of these various contrast agents, whether it's the CT agents or the MR agents, are much, much safer than they were 30 years ago. So I'm sure in order to allow this to be extended past the COVID time, they must have looked at the data and the incidence of adverse reactions, and most importantly, the patient outcomes, and they felt that there was no additional safety issues when it came to this type of approach.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Susan, let me just finish that. When I come back, I will ask you about the RSNA, Radiology Society of North America conference coming up, and see
Yes.
that out there new things are coming up there. I used to attend quite a bit. That is why my presentation is not there. That is very strange. Where are the presentations? Let me say that I'm having a little bit problem. Just give me 1 minute. Something is going on here. Yeah, I uploaded it, and yeah, let me see.
So I've been doing a lot of work in sonography, kind of it's an area where different contrast than the CT or the MR. We're talking about micro bubbles. You would think would be completely innocuous, and yet 75% of patients that have a reaction have never had any reactions to anything before, and voila, here we go. Now we have a micro bubble reaction. Again, very, very rare, very rare. It's so hard to be prepared for that response, emergency response, when it's so low frequency, high risk. So
Right.
that's a whole nother area of imaging.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Contrast enhanced ultrasound is a great area.
Yeah. Now I'm going to talk about something closer to that. Yeah, a little bit. First time, there's a Dr. Mukherji and Susan. It's a very interesting thing happening in the world of science, healthcare, and AI, particularly mathematics. You never seen the way interacting with the biology. It is the first time in medicine, direct interaction. For example, I'll give you an example. You can say that equation up there, mathematical equation, can determine, if you take a movie of somebody walking, it can determine the Lagrangian walk, it's called. It can determine they have Alzheimer's or signed up a Parkinson. It can determine the kind of, mathematics is deciding as a diagnostic tool. It never happened before. It is the first time where direct interactions, the diagnosis, treatment, prognosis in all areas is a mathematics is going to play a huge role in the future. That's a very strange, that we never thought. But this is a very myth. Everybody thinks science and technology are the same, but they're not the same. I tell you, the mathematics is a part of science. The mathematics is a nature's code. Like a Fibonacci sequence, for example, gives you that the sunflower petals, the way arrangement is. That's a nature's code. It follows certain rules and regulation rules. In Python is a tech code. The guy who is eating some chips is producing this man-made technology. It is trying to emulate that part, but it's not possible. We don't have that much insights into the nature itself. So technology, I remember Dr. Mukherji, cardiologist used to claim all the radiologists work hard, and then they invent new procedures, and the cardiologist used to steal and then say, "Oh, they got it." So that kind of thing happened before. So technology people take the mathematics and everything say technology, but it is not. It is not a technology. Science and technology differ in that is a science try to find the nature's truth, and the technology is just to try to find a solution with that, whatever the reasons are. But mathematics of frequencies in particular is going to be directly connected with the biology of cells. Who did this? More than 100 years ago, a young man from India found a mystic mathematics he did. Okay? He did a mystery of mathematics is a revelation for him. That revelation is what he did was amazing things he did. Let me tell you. His name is Srinivasa Ramanujan. He was born is a long name, but he was born in 1887. Okay, in the temples of Kumbakonam, Chennai, Tamil Nadu, in a small house where there is no water, running water, there is no electricity. He was studying under the lantern. What he did was amazing. He was a very religious Hindu religious family he came from. What he did was he did mathematical equations. He's writing on the slates and everything. He's producing a math madness. He's producing equation after equation after equation. He's producing. One of the equations are so strange. These equations are, for example, Ramanujan summation. If we add all the integers, 1 plus 2 plus 3, all the way to infinity, the answer is not infinity. It's a minus 1 over 12. Very strange. It's a counterintuitive. That is kind of mathematics is producing. It got the attention of the English professor, G.H. Hardy, when he was younger. He did not even pass, he just passed high school. That's it. Then it got the attention of English professor G.H. Hardy. Is a very well-known mathematician from Trinity College, Cambridge. So he invited, 1914, he invited Ramanujan to come to Cambridge, where Sir Isaac Newton was a professor 200 years ago. Same place. Newton was a professor, the father of the physics. So Ramanujan was invited to come to the Trinity College to attend the mathematics. Then G.H. Hardy is one of the well-known mathematicians. He was surprised that these equations are so profound, so mysterious. He asked them, the conversation went this way, similar to this one. How did you arrive these equations? Ramanujan answered, God has gave it to me in my dreams. What goddess? He said, Namagiri, the name of the Namagiri, I have a photo. So the highly sophisticated mathematician, he said that never mind, sorry we asked you. So it is a very Western world to understand that concept is very difficult. But listen, until anybody say like that, it would have been a crackpot and it would have been dismissed. But let me tell you what these people were, the famous people said about Ramanujan. This is a very famous people. These are all. This is a Michio Kaku said that Ramanujan was the strangest man in the field of science. In the entire history of science, he has been compared to the bursting supernovae, illuminating the darkest, the most profound corners of mathematics. Freeman Dyson, Ramanujan had some sort of magic tricks that we don't understand, says late Freeman Dyson of the Institute of Advanced Study from Princeton University, one of the most well-respected physicists. Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Facebook, said that with a partial math book, he did the entire modern mathematics and moved the field forward. Just think if he had access to the internet. Ken Ono is a professor of mathematics who studied the Ramanujan papers in detail. Actually, I interacted with him. He's probably watching it. Ramanujan's work in mathematics is the epitome of intuition. For a brief period of time, window of time, 5 years, he lit the world of math on fire. G.H. Hardy, his supervisor, this well-respected professor of mathematics at Cambridge, and the direct supervisor of the Ramanujan said, the most satisfying thing in my life was meeting my student Ramanujan. Other way around, he's saying my blessing was meeting a student Ramanujan. What he did, what kind of things he did, I'm going to tell you. This is a Haifa, Israel. It's a place where where there is no Hindu gods, the rest of the religion, Ramanujan Hindu god inspired algorithms became a worship place. Ramanujan machine was introduced in the city of Haifa, Israel, not India. It is a Christianity, there's a Jewish religion there. This Haifa is a very combination of all the religions in the same place. The Jewish, Christianity, and the Islam, and the Druze, another religion, a combination of some mixed religion. They're all religions are one place in Haifa, Israel. In the Israeli Institute of Technology, they put the Hindu-inspired Ramanujan's algorithms, all of them on the right side you see. Ramanujan sums, Ramanujan spaces, Ramanujan Fourier transformation, Ramanujan filter banks, and keep going. All these are algorithms, mind-boggling algorithms they put in the Haifa, Israel, in the Ramanujan mission. The software algorithms. So, what is this? Anything to do with the biology and medicine? Ramanujan is a playground, his equations are playground for numbers, billions and trillions. He knows how to deal with the numbers, mind-boggling numbers. One of them are we have 36 trillion cells, 39 trillion bacteria in our body, 100 billion neurons, 1 trillion connection synapses, 4 septillion hydrogen atoms. We can't even imagine the number of zeros there. 11,000 trillion oxygen atoms. It's just the mind-boggling numbers are there. These are the ones cause troubles for us. They give you life, same time it causes the diseases. How do they do that? Why we cannot, our body is so resilient, but I don't have to tell both of you guys, I'm not a doctor. Early symptoms are liability. Why body hides the diseases? There is a pot physics and pot computation. It's not really biology itself. It is a pot physics and pot computation. Early symptoms are liability, because if you show for a small thing, pain or fatigue, the lions come and eat you. In Africa, even something can come and eat you. So you cannot. So body try to mask it. Not a transparency is not its goal. Masking is a goal. Prime directive of the body is homeostasis. Maintaining the temperature, maintaining the pH value, glucose and blood pressure. That is an equilibrium. That is all of them are hormonal system. That is a maintaining the balance is a prime directive. Computational complexity. People don't know this, but body computes and does billions of calculations. Billions of computations it does. Billions of feedback calculations per second. Metabolic fluxes, enzyme reactions, and membrane potentials, all of them are quite a number. Your body hides a disease because survival depends on the equilibrium, not early detection. So we cannot get early detection. That's a problem. Liver, kidneys, you have to end stage almost. The same intricate feedback system that make life possible also make illness invisible. That is a problem right there. So what it says, Ramanujan machine is a deep truth is the life is an oscillation. Life is a frequency that Susan talks about all the times. Mathematics meets a medicine here. Ramanujan machine can read these rhythms of life. It does EKG. It can tell you, Ramanujan machine, where the epilepsy causing cells are located in the brain. Or if EKG structures, when Ramanujan machine can tell you, listen to me, this is very interesting. It can tell you when you are going to have a heart attack, exactly what day, what time. It is possible with the Ramanujan machine. It is strange. But why? You know, what is the Ramanujan's machine? Ramanujan's algorithms are hidden pathologies, hidden frequencies. You know, you see a big wave, but you cannot see a wave embedded in the inside the wave because our even the sensors cannot pick it up. You know, I give you an example. You know, in Indian Hindu philosophy, in Bhagavad Gita, they say the Bhagavad Gita, one of the Lord Krishna wants to show the transcendental form, a multi-dimensional form. He wants to show it to Arjuna. Dr. Mukherji may know a little bit about that. So but he cannot see. He has to give a divine sight. It's a multi-dimensional form. Only we can see 3 dimensions: left, height, length, and width and height. That's all 3-dimensional. World humans are 3-dimensional. We cannot see more than 3 dimensions. So he wants to show, this God wants to show his disciple multi-dimensional form of him. So he give a divine sight to see his higher dimensional form, omnipotent. You are everywhere, all the places, all the time. Entire universe is spread across. You know, that is one show. That's exactly what it does, Ramanujan. Ramanujan gave a mathematical sight to the diseases. He can go through higher dimensions of 100, almost 200,000 dimensions. He can look at it through Ramanujan algorithms. And the frequencies, they detect frequencies so subtle, so unrecognizable. They recognize that periodicities, these frequencies, oscillations. You know, that is one of the strangest thing in the divine math. He gave a divine sight. He gave Krishna, the Lord. But here, Ramanujan gave us divine mathematics. You can see higher dimensions, higher frequencies of low frequencies of these people. For example, static is not so static. Ramanujan frequency microscope. Frequency microscope is not actually not an instrument, but I'm talking about just a symbolic, say, it is a Ramanujan Fourier transformation, it is called. Raman is a mathematical algorithm. What it does is very interesting. The Fourier does is he will recognize all the big, like EKG signals you see, he can recognize all the main QRS complex. But Ramanujan transformation, what he does is those subtle, there are frequencies that there are data points, raw data points that can cause problems. It will read them. Ramanujan mathematics. Liver, mitochondrial frequencies, oscillations, mitochondrial metabolic complex. So mitochondrial frequencies, it will read. Ramanujan mathematics will read those mitochondrial sequences. Pancreas, for example, insulin release oscillations, frequencies, it releases periodicity. Bones, piezoelectric, it produces the vibration, electric vibrations, it recognizes. Are you there, Susan? Hello? What happened? Navya? Yeah.
Are we back?
Yeah. So can you hear me?
Yes.
Did you watch this or you missed it?
No, I saw this. The last thing was we were mitochondria, the frequencies of mitochondria.
Yeah. The frequencies of mitochondria is it reached the Ramanujan mathematics reached these frequencies of mitochondria. It can read so well. It is so you have a big wave. There are a lot of small waves embedded inside. It reads all those waves. Ramanujan mathematics. Ramanujan is particularly famous for the reading a very embedded frequencies. Pancreas, for example, insulin release oscillations. It reads it. Bones, they produce electrical vibrations. It can read that. Anything that produces frequency, life is itself is a frequencies. So it will read what it does, what it means. It can detect one of the toughest cancers is pancreas. The radiologist is here. Dr. Mukherji can tell us. Liver, for example, there's a new because You have to wait until the liver and kidneys, you have to wait until almost 70% is gone. Neurodegenerative disease, Alzheimer's, protein misfolding diseases. All these are all you can detect way earlier with a precise timings. That's a great thing. Why we are not doing this? Why this is a question, very profound question we need to ask. Yeah. They wanted $10 billion investment in the AI data center. Ramanujan mathematics with a 1,000 laptop can do the same thing. But why they with $10 billion data center, you know why? This is even a ChatGPT said that it is sad. Even it is disagreeing with his own boss, Sam Altman, it is just agreed. It is they're not thinking. That's what he said. It is strange because Silicon Valley AI is a $500 billion. They are looking for investment returns. Whereas Ramanujan is looking for tuning with the nature. You tune with the nature, you can silence the mind. It produces better results and cheaper. Nobody, I checked it with all the AIs. The idea is Ramanujan algorithms are way better for these kind of things. You can use AI with the Ramanujan algorithms. You can use AI, but you don't need a $10 billion AI. You can use a simple laptop can do all those things with a right mind. So he died he was a very young age. He died. He went back to India. He was there only 4 or 5 years in England, and then he went back in 1922, at the age of 32. For 5, he won he's the only first person, non Caucasian man to be inducted into the Royal Society of Fellowship, Royal Society. With a kerosene lamp, with a slate and a piece of papers, he dazzled the world of mathematics. World-class mathematics dazzled by his equations. Miranda Chang of University of Paris, Manjul Bhargava, he won the Nobel Prize, not Nobel, field medalist. He was equal to the Nobel Prize. I know him, I met him actually. John Duncan from Emory University and Ken Mono as Virginia Tech, and hundreds of mathematicians and physicists are working on Ramanujan's equation even now. He died 1920. They found a book. It is called Ramanujan's. Somebody went there into the Oxford, the Trinity College, and went through the Ramanujan's old notes. Recently, he wrote a book, Ramanujan's Lost Book. In this one, they found a string theory, not only microorganisms, how they work. He gave the equations for all the modular functions, these are all called. Black holes, how they store the information on the surface of the black hole. String theory, higher dimensions, how the matter was produced in they created. ATMs you do see every day. The integer, the cache that put in, how do you distribute the cache? Is a integer partitions. Is a partition. It was one of the top equations for the partition he gave. There are millions of ATM machines. How do you distribute the cache? And then how do you put those things in place? That is a complex problem. He did that, all of them. There was the man we knew infinity. There was a movie made on his name. It's called, if you have not seen it, see that beautiful movie, The Man Who Knew Infinity. Ramanujan dazzled the world with his equations. Now he is dazzling the medical field. Ramanujan lives on forever. His equations, still people are studying it. Thank you for watching. Let me bring back my friends there. So what do you think, Dr. Mukherjee? Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I had
there
on
we
mute.
go.
Yeah.
Bravo. That was very interesting.
Yeah, no, I
What
thought
do
it was
you think, Dr.
interesting.
Mukherjee? Yeah, so Susan is always like frequencies,
Yeah, no, I thought it was really good. I think when I was listening to you say that, I couldn't help, although they're fundamentally different, think of the predictive ability of Ramanujan and it's somewhat independent approach to unsolved problems
Yes.
with the
Yes.
creation of autonomous or agentic AI. Because essentially what we're trying to do is the Ramagen is, I think, is very task oriented. So you can create the software algorithms to address a specific question, whereas agentic and autonomous AI are a little bit more broad scope. But I think if you look at the ability to create different algorithms to solve issues, I couldn't help but notice a somewhat parallel approach to both the Ramagen versus agentic or autonomous AI regarding potential future applications.
You know, I didn't tell you this one. There's a one slide I forgot about to mention. One slide is called Moonshine. You know, Moonshine, Monster Moonshine. It's Ramanujan mathematics. You know, in the Moonshine, that's what it is, that you can see the hidden frequencies through the mathematics. He extracts the data from the raw data, extract the. So I was wondering why they put a word called moonshine there. This is a creative redneck guy came up with a with a guy. I tell you, I did some research on it. I got funny. It is funny. What they said is that during the probation in the United States, in America, that's what they were doing. What do you call whiskey? Corn whiskey. They're doing under the moon because they don't want to put lights on. They don't want to get caught by the government in the probation time. So Susan may know because she drives pickup truck. Yeah. So Susan, but I tell you, this is a moonshine is a the word came from the funny name came from there. That was giving the dimensions to read the frequencies under embedded frequencies itself. So you don't need a big sensors. A small sensor can take all the data, raw data. It will look for the patterns itself. That is a power of the Ramanujan. So you're right. Do parallel things, but it's a lot cheaper to do Ramanujan thing than $10 billion. They're not going to give you $500 billion machine for free. So they're going to charge the doctor's offices quite a bit.
Yeah,
Well,
but by the way, I grew up in Kentucky, Romana, so I'm quite familiar with moonshine.
Yeah. Yeah. Susan,
I
if you have a
always
moonshine,
say-
send it to me. I will come down and get it.
Well, Romana, I always say that I'm a Hindu redneck, so I grew up.
You'd be my first Hindu redneck friend. I love that. I'll tell you what. The first thing we need to do is steal that microscope. I think that microscope. I was trying to figure that out, right? I mean, how would he get the frequencies from the microscope? So
No, it's not a microscope. It's not a microscope. It is a just I put that frequency. Microscope is a symbolic. The actually is a laptop with algorithm picks up the scanner. Any sensor you can put it there. It picks up the data and analyze it. That process. Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Very good. I just think that it was a fascinating. I'd love, like you just suggested, to bring this into the 2025 to 2028. Get those frequencies, categorize them, put them into AI, and let's see how they can. What are the frequencies of health versus dis-ease, and then transform it into treatment, right? If we can find out what the frequency is of what's going wrong, can we then treat it with a frequency to get it back to health? Organ, a mitochondria, a liver, a pancreas, a brain cell, something along those lines.
Dr. Mukherjee, I want to ask you, the education in the medical field, when you were studying, as you said that, for the last century, you were saying, the problem is that they made these isolated fields. Radiology is different, cardiology is different, mathematics, you should not even touch the mathematics. I think, interdisciplinary field right now is a very important nowadays to get this access to all this. What do you think of you're a professor? You can tell me a little bit about the education of the medical system.
Yeah, you have to be interdisciplinary right now. I mean, I'm lucky because I'm a radiologist. I have a joint appointment in radiation oncology and ENT and also neurosurgery. And I think, as medicine moves forward, you have to cross collaborate. In radiology, there was an intentional decision made for radiologists to be more subspecialized. So in a way, you can think of kind of de-skilling. You do not want me reading your mammogram, but maybe you want me reading your head and neck or your brain study, which is good. But I think a lot of my expertise and whatever value I can have is I spend most of my time talking with non-radiologists, because, you know, when we look at the treatment of diseases and various disorders, you know, if we just look at cancer, cancer is not treated by a doctor, it's being treated by a team. And I think part of the reasons we're getting better successes now is that in the old days, I would sort of joke is that when you treated cancer 30 years ago, we would either cut it, we would fry it, or we would poison it.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is you would treat it with surgery, you would treat it with radiation therapy, or treat it with chemotherapy.
Mhm.
But moving forward right now, you know, all of our disciplines are coming together in order to make the best decision. And it's not just the physicians that are at the apex. Historically, it was the physicians that were at the top of the pyramid. But in order to get the best results for cancer, there are numerous other important stakeholders that have equal agency in the treatment of those cancers. So if you have a cancer, yes, you can be treated by the physicians and decide surgery, chemo, radiation therapy, and have that best treatment. But you also have to take into account to make sure that you have nurse navigators that can make sure that you get to your appointments. You have to make sure that your nutrition is correct. You have to have supportive employers, because a lot of the ability to have the best outcome is to make sure that the person that's afflicted oftentimes is a parent. They want to make sure that their kids are okay. Maybe they're the breadwinners. They want to make sure they can provide for their families. And all of the things, kind of getting back to what you were saying regarding the multifaceted approach to heterogeneity, these are all things that we never focused on 30 years ago. But as we learn more, not only about the science and the biology of cancer, now we're learning more about the human aspects of this and some of these other things that we dismissed in the past, but are just as important.
Beautiful.
Radiology is truly the heart of healthcare, in my opinion. It directs, imaging directs treatment. It's the heart of every hospital. And so I very much thank you for your expertise. And I'm very pleased with this conversation. I can tell you, my niece, who was very much considering going into radiology, said, oh, heck with it. I'm not going to do it. AI is definitely replacing radiologists, but I know now that that's not true. Thank you for that.
You know, I think it's a multifaceted board we are going to be in. I think, you know, Dr. Mukherji, you know, that you're going to RSNA in, you know, coming up. So you're representing a company. Just tell us a little bit about carpool.ai.ai. That's what you said?
Well, first of all, I'm part of the program committee for RSNA. And so
Okay.
as I'm speaking right now, one of my colleagues is texting me, who will also be there. I won't mention their name, but they're enjoying the webcast. I can tell you right now.
Good.
Really great comments from that person. And when I see them at RSNA, I will surely mention that. But my primary goal for attending RSNA is from a scientific and educational basis. But yeah, I also consult with Carpal AI, which is the largest radiology platform in the world. And so from my standpoint, Carpal is a great company, but they also have access to 170 different AI softwares. And they also have this thing where they have a weekly webinars. And it's very easy for me to listen in and learn about each of these individual companies. So part of my knowledge on AI and really kind of focus on the whole value stream of AI, not only talking about the pixel-based AI for detection, but also some of the other things where AI touches different aspects of healthcare, in particular radiology. And we haven't even talked about the radiomics and the radiogenomics that are some of the cutting edge areas, but a lot of that is based on my interactions with them.
Thank you, sir. You know, it's always pleasure talking with you. Go ahead, Susan. You want to say final word or a couple of points?
No, I'm sad we didn't talk about the radiogenomics. That's a whole nother topic we didn't get into. You'll have to come back.
You have to come back. Thank you, Dr. Suresh Mukherji. You know, always a privilege to talk with you. You're always educational for us. You know, you're a long-standing supporter of MedBricks. Thank you so much. It's truly an honor.
Yeah, it's a privilege for me, Ramana. And like I said, I just love people with passion and energy and people that think differently.
Thank you,
And
sir.
I like your tagline where diversity of thoughts
Yes.
is appreciated. And Susan, it's a pleasure to meet you. I've seen you on many of these podcasts, and it's great to meet you almost in person. And I think you guys make a great team. And Susan, you've added a new dimension to this. And
Absolutely.
congratulations to both of you for a wonderful partnership and creating really a unique format to discuss things that otherwise no other individuals would have the courage to discuss. So thank you very much for allowing me to play a small part of it.
So kind of you to say thank you so very much. There's nothing more pleasurable to either of us than highlighting amazing people doing amazing things and talking to them in the way that we just did. Thank you so very much.
Good night, all of you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
We are retailing their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.